Hi and welcome. Welcome to Science on this second day in September. In Rochester, it's 66 degrees and partly cloudy. I think it's only going to be a high of about 72. So we are feeling fall weather. In other parts of the east this morning, oh, they're struggling. In New York right now, there's flooding in the subways. So they are closing the subways. The boroughs are having a hard time. In DC, there was Annapolis, Maryland, just north of DC, there was a huge tornado. Homes were destroyed. It's bad, y'all. um, New Orleans, still without power in that heat. And they're talking about it being out of power, them being out of power for a month. They're having to rebuild their electrical system because so many lines and the towers, if you saw on TV, went down. Can you imagine down there? People are homeless um, in DC area, apartment building flooded and people drowned. That the thought of that in their sleep, the thought of that is just horrifying. So, wow, to think how can things be worse? I'm blessed. I woke up this morning in my right mind, kind of, sorta, and with a good bit of help from where I've been as a cancer society. So, as a cancer survivor, yes, I am thankful in this moment. I have everything I need in mindfulness. When we sit still and quiet in ourselves, we know um, that everything is okay and everything's going to be okay. I'm a believer. I'm sending out prayers for those people, for everybody, and for this land. Even if you're not, you can still send love and positive energy. You can walk in that. And the world is a little different. So we're going to kind of sum up the reproductive system in terms of the anatomy and the physiology, meaning how things are made, what they look like, and what their function is, what they do. And then we'll move into some other aspects of the reproductive system. So, going to share with you the map. I mean, not the map, the diagram again of the reproductive health system. And come down here. There you go. There you go. And so we have, again, hoping you can see it all. Oh, that's perfect, right? There we go. There is our reproductive system. And when we look at the female organs, you have the vagina, which is an internal organ, an internal part of the reproductive system. The outer part is covered by the labia. That's the fleshy part of the vagina that we see. And then we have the cervix, which opens during birth for childbirth, right? The cervix is here. The endometrium is the tissue that lines the uterus during menstruation. This tissue comes off and is shed, empties the body through the vagina. Um, we then have the ovaries, which contain the eggs. Uh, all the eggs that you'll have in your entire life, girl, female child will have at birth, and the eggs will decrease in number and health of the eggs themselves with age. Then we have the uterus, which is a small pear-shaped organ which would contain a fetus. So branching off here, we have the fallopian tubes, which would receive a fertilized egg and travel along into the uterus during a pregnancy. With the male organs, we have externally, and for the most part, the female reproductive system is internal, all except for the labia. With the male reproductive system, um, you have external organs such as the penis, which inside, the outside fleshy part, as we know, is the penis. Inside is the urethra, through which sperm and urine are also released. Then we have the testes. Oh, they're not showing. Okay. The testes, which contain, in which the sperm are housed. We have the seminal vesicle, which releases fluid, semen, and other fluids to help the sperm to be healthy. And we have here a prostate gland and the vas deferens, which release hormones. The brain tells them to release hormones and create secondary sex changes at puberty, such as a deepening voice and hair and those hair on the body and things like that. And then at puberty, the brain turns on estrogen, which is released by the estrogen is released in the brain, and I believe that's the answer. Don't always have it. So that's a mini review. What you had here, and I'm going to just go over our review. So let's talk about sex, baby. We're not really talking about sex. If we have time to squeeze that in, we can talk about that too, because it is a part of being a human being. So here's our review. What's the reproductive system? Well, it is a human organ system. Let me make this bigger for you. I see that looks very small. And then we'll just look at one part at a time. So the reproductive system is the human organ system responsible for the production and the fertilization of gametes, which is a cellular organism, which is a sperm or an egg, and in females, the carrying of a fetus. Define a gonad. A gonad is an organ that produces gametes, a testis or an ovary, and gametes are sperm or eggs. What are sex hormones and what are their functions? Sex hormones are endocrine hormones, okay, so produced in the brain, that control development of sex organs before birth. Remember, we have that. If you have the presence of one particular sex hormone, the fetus will fully develop as a male, and also at puberty and for reproduction once sexual maturation has occurred, preparing the body for birth. Distinguish between male and female sex hormones. Well, the main sex hormones are testosterone, I'm sure you've heard, in males, and estrogen in females. However, keep in mind that our body contains both male and female hormones, and that's for both sexes. What is the differentiation of the reproductive system that creates males or females? Okay. So around the 7th week after conception, when you have a male, which is made up of an X chromosome from the mother and a Y chromosome from the father, a gene on the called SRY on the Y chromosome initiates some proteins which cause tissue to develop into gonads. Okay, so we're talking about the penis and the testicles. And then the gonads secrete hormones, including testosterone, which triggers other changes in the offspring. It's called a fetus by the 7th week, causing it to develop into a complete male, right? Without the Y chromosome, the embryo will develop ovaries that will produce estrogen. I knew that. Because estrogen is what gives you menstruation. And estrogen, in turn, will lead to the other organs of a normal female reproductive system. So these things all take place at the 7th week after conception. So now, what, in terms of male and female reproductive systems, what is a homologous structure? Remember the prefix homo, H-O-M-O, means same. Logos, meaning the structure. So what happens is that there's tissue that starts out the same in male and female, right? In the beginning. And that same tissue will become a penis later with the presence of estrogen, right? I mean, testosterone will become a penis or will become a clitoris. So they start out the same, undifferentiated, not different. And next question, when and how does the human reproductive system mature? Well, the reproductive system matures at puberty, right? Hormones turn on from the brain again, and they start pushing more estrogen and pushing in females and more testosterone in males. Now, sometimes there will be other chromosomes coming forward. You can have an XXY or an XYY, and you may not fully be differentiated as a male or female. That is a natural occurrence. Sometimes there may be internal organs of one sex, meaning ovaries, and external organs of the other. That happens in nature, and that is fully a natural occurrence. So here we go. Listing the organs of the male reproductive system. The main structures of the male reproductive system are external to the body, right? The two testes hang between the thighs in a sac of skin called the scrotum. And then atop of them is the epididymis. And then you have the penis, which contains the urethra and can stiffen during sexual arousal. The man also has glands, not just organs, but glands that are internal to the body. So they include the vas deferens, which transports sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. And then the glands are also the prostate gland and the semen vesicles produce fluid that become part of semen. Okay, stop. Okay, so let's go on. In the female reproductive system, internal, the main structures are the ovaries that produce the eggs and secrete estrogen. And then you have the fallopian tubes, which start at near the ovaries and end at the uterus. And their function is to transport the eggs from the ovaries to the uterus. And if an egg is fertilized, it usually occurs while it's traveling through the fallopian tube. And but guess what? If it stays there, it causes what's a tubal pregnancy, and obviously a fetus can't develop in the fallopian tubes. So sometimes people have what's called a tubal pregnancy and a miscarriage, and sometimes that can happen and you're not even aware of it. It passes through the body in the menstrual fluid, in the menses. So the uterus is a pear-shaped organ. It's about the size of a pear, actually. And it functions to carry the fetus until birth. And as you're aware, as the fetus grows, the uterus expands. And the vagina is the tubular tract connecting the uterus to the outside of the body. And the vagina is where the sperm are deposited during intercourse. And the vagina is also called, that tube is called the birth canal, because that's where a baby travels to leave the body during birth. Then you have the external structures, which are called the vulva, and that includes the clitoris, which is homologous, coming from the same structure of tissue as the penis, and also the labia, which surround and protect the openings of the urethra and the vagina. Almost done doing some matching here. Female gametes are called eggs. Male gametes are called sperm. True or false? Is the vagina the homologous structure to the penis? No. The clitoris is the homologous structure coming from the same type of tissue as the penis, and it's differentiated by the presence of hormones. True or false? In the absence of a Y chromosome in humans, ovaries will develop. Yes, you have an X and an X to create a female in which grows ovaries first, right? So, secondary sex characteristics: fallopian tubes, ovaries, or breasts. The answer would be breasts. Breasts are secondary because it comes second. They come at puberty. They're triggered with puberty. Number 14, fertilization usually occurs in the what? Ovary, fallopian tube, uterus, or vagina? Fallopian tube, usually. Best where? In the uterus, because that is where the fetus can grow and become viable. And then the difference between the vulva and the vagina is known as the birth canal. It is an internal organ, it's a tube. The vulva is the outer tissue and the clitoris, including the clitoris, which protects the opening of the vagina. And that's it. So if you wanted a study sheet about the reproductive system, there's your study sheet right there. I'd hang on to that, make a note of where that's located. That's all we have for today. See you tomorrow for social studies. If not, enjoy your holiday. Take care.